Welcome to the Capital Discussions OptionVue Education. I'm Tom Nonemaker with James from OptionVue Systems International. But before we get started, quick disclosure that Capital Discussions is not a broker-dealer or an investment advisor. This presentation is for educational purposes only. If you don't know your situation and have no way of knowing what level of risk is appropriate for you, we're not making any specific trade recommendations. The risk of loss in trading options can be substantial, so please be aware of all of your risks prior to placing any trades. Hypothetical computer-simulated trades are believed to be accurately represented. However, actual profit or loss may vary due to market factors such as liquidity, slippage, and commissions. So with that, this is for educational purposes only, and I will stop sharing and welcome James. This is the third or fourth time you've been with us, so it's always a pleasure and nice to have you back.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Excited to always share what's new and what's coming with OptionVue. So I can go ahead and share my desktop now.
Yep.
And let's see here. Yep, going to share my my OptionVue. Okay, perfect. Sharing my OptionVue now.
Yep.
So basically, yeah, just wanted to kind of touch base with everybody on what's new in OptionVue. A lot of releases have come out over the past month and a half or so, and then also, I'm going to, kind of lead you around on some settings that I get. That I commonly have to address when people first start out with OptionVue. I'm going to show you where to go and find what the latest features are in OptionVue and see what's coming up. And then also demonstrate a little bit of the new features. So first off, I'm going to talk about some settings really quick that I think are really important when you first get started with OptionVue. I get these questions all the time. First thing to take a look at is you'll have in the upper left-hand corner here, you have these tabs. This home is the default. But if you click on this settings tab, I'm actually going to double click on it so that it stays open here. Go into preferences right off the bat when you first get OptionVue, whether it's a trial or you're a subscriber. The most important thing to do is you're going to want to come to graphic analysis. Okay, there's a lot of things you can customize in OptionVue. When you're first getting started, these are what I recommend, and then once you get comfortable with that, if you want to go back into preferences and change some things around, of course you can do that. But the first thing I always like is to have when you open up a graphic analysis or open up a risk profile for your proposed trade or existing position, I always like it to look at today when it opens up. When the default is that it's always going to look at expiration. And if you're looking at expiration, some people will say, hey, I opened up my graphic analysis and all my Greeks are at 0 down at the bottom there. Well, that's because you're looking at expiration. So this T+0 is what I recommend. Another little thing that, some people will ask about right away is whether the lines, the expiration or the actual T+ lines, the timelines in the graphic analysis display dates, or the default is the T+N, which means today plus how many ever days in the future you want to be looking at. Okay, so that's this one here. That's pretty much the biggest one that I have people take a look at right away. The next one is default models. Okay, slippage is set to small when you first download OptionVue. I like to have slippage set to none. Okay, that means whatever the market price calculations you're using, that's the way you're going to be modeling your positions going in and coming out as well. Okay, what this does is if you had slippage set to small, moderate, large, or hit bid ask, that's just saying how bad of a fill you're going to get going into a trade or coming out of it. By using slippage set to none, you're just getting market price. And as you can see here, this is going to get a little worse fill, a moderately bad fill, a bad fill, and the worst possible fill you could get would be hit bid ask. Okay, so that's under default models. The next one is default auto strike. Okay, so if you want to have weeklies come up if they're available, if you're a lot of things that are really liquid, of course, are trading in weeklies now, but the default does not have weeklies on. So if you open up an SPX matrix for the first time and you see that you're just seeing the standard options, which are these right here, and you want to see weeklies, you could come into here, and anything that has weeklies with this checked, if it does have weeklies, it'll come in and they'll populate. Okay. This over here, natural intervals or display all strikes, I actually prefer display all strikes. What the use natural intervals does, and this is the default, use natural intervals, what that does is it further out, you might have Apple is a good example. Apple has a lot of weeklies trading and then standard options trading. And when you go further out in Apple, you might only have $5 strikes trading out further out in time, whereas the dollar strikes start opening up as those contracts move closer to expiration. By selecting natural strikes, it is going to eliminate those closer in dollar strikes and just show the $5 strikes, because what it's trying to do is trying to condense the option chain down so that you don't have any blank areas in your options chain of things that are not trading yet. So by displaying all strikes, you're going to really open up the ranges you're able to see with the closer in expirations. So I recommend display all strikes, and that's one of the default settings that I would recommend coming in and changing. Okay. The last one I'm going to touch on, well, second to last one, is the default matrix format. Okay. So when you open up an options chain, there's a default. And what you can do is you can come in here and customize it. Usually it's set up for a 1x4, okay, and it's going to look like this. This is what I kind of recommend everybody does to start off with, is a 1x5. So you can see the market price, the volatility. You want to have a trade column for your proposed trades, and then you want to have an existing position column for your existing trades. And then this last fifth column, I'm always changing on the fly. A lot of people like to see delta here, or theoretical price, or open interest. I usually like to have this last column here so that I can, always right-click in the options chain on this column heading and change it. But 1x5 is what I would recommend, and then you would set default 1, and then that one be your default going forward every time you open up a new options chain. And you can set up to 3 defaults. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to touch on as far as settings that I get a lot is under the info button. I got this one over the weekend where someone was doing a lot of back testing, and every time they did a back test, they would go into their reports or status, and they would see that a ton of commissions had been charged where they weren't accurate or didn't want them in there. Well, where you go is you go under the info button, and then you check on this schedule down here. Okay, I have all mine zeroed out, and when I put trades on, I'm always going in myself and manually putting in what I got filled at, or the commissions that I got charged. But as a default, the commissions are outrageous. I think it's like $14 or $15 a transaction base fee, and then it's charging you per option. So you're definitely going to get some really high commissions to start off with, unless you come in here and change this. You could have a transaction base fee of maybe $4.95, and maybe you're paying $1.50 an option. But whatever it is, you can come in here and change it, and that way going forward, you'll have accurate commissions, or commissions the way you want to have them displayed in your live account analysis or your back testing. Okay, and again, that's under info, and then under the schedule here. While we're on here, any back testing you're doing, you can, when you first get OptionVue, you're going to have just a default account that we set you up with automatically. You can always rename that or create a new account. You could have an unlimited number of accounts in OptionVue, and I'm just going to click on this so you can see, all the things that I have in here. Just back test accounts, live accounts that I switch between. But that's where you would do that, is under the info button, is where you're able to start new accounts, start new back tests, and adjust commissions. Okay, this portion right here is, I get this a lot. This is something that people like OptionVue for. So if you're running a campaign, you can have the gain losses to include previously realized gain losses. This is not checked off by default, so you'll want to come back in here if you want to back test any type of campaign style income trading that you're doing. Okay. So those are the main things, the main questions that I'm addressing often when I first get a new person on OptionVue. one of the newer features now is the trade ID that we have. And Jim Graham here in the office actually sent me over some account files that I just dropped in my OptionVue so that I can demonstrate this. But I'm going to go ahead and put them in the SPX. So this is what the new trade ID field looks like. Okay. What you can do now is you can have a number of different trades going. Okay. You can see I've got something in the January, something in this weekly with 26 days left, and then something up close expiring this week. And if I click on this drop-down box, now I can go. You can actually, name your trade now. Okay, so you can click on this one, and now it's just going to bring in this trade. Okay, you can look at the one that's going to expire out a little further. Okay, and you'll see part of the position here. This arrow is going to bring me down, to where the other side of it is. Okay, so these arrows they'll bring you to where you have a position. So this is kind of nice because you can still also use the R column as well. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the reports button here, and you can see that it's just bringing up what I have selected in the matrix here. Let's go ahead and look to all. And now I'm going to click on the reports, and you can see we've got all of these trades on right now, and there's the trade ID. Okay, so this is kind of nice because before we just had an R column where you would name that trade A, B, C, or D, or 1, 2, 3. Now you can actually put a name to it. If I click on my trade log here, this is my transaction history, and I open this up, you can see this is where you're going to have the trade ID. Okay. Now you can further go ahead and isolate different parts of your trade by using the R column as well. Okay, so you can really get pretty complex strategies going on and be able to isolate parts of those strategies even more so, and it's just really nice to be able to do that. And when you do adjustments or multiple adjustments, you can isolate those adjustments even further with the trade ID, but you can also then go ahead and further categorize them with the R column here. Okay. So that's one of the latest features that has been put into OptionVue. Okay. Let's see here. So we've talked about the settings, and let's see. We're going to click on this Help tab, okay? And Help Docs here, this is a fantastic place to go. It's going to basically take you to OptionVue's manual online. What I love about it is, it's basically you can search for a topic. You could click on this and type in graphic analysis, and you're going to have a bunch of categories pop up where you can click on this and read all about the features in the graphic analysis. If you wanted to find out, about Trade Finder, one of our scanning tools, you could type in Trade Finder in this online help support system we have here, and it'll give you details about how to use Trade Finder. What I really wanted to show you is this release notes here. Okay, so if you click on release notes, I'm going to go ahead and drag over my browser here real quick. This is going to tell you what has been done in the latest version. Okay, it's also going to talk to you about what's coming soon. Okay, this is pretty new that Len here, Len Yates, our programmer and owner of OptionVue, is now kind of being more transparent about what he's working on. We've had a lot of questions about the Wednesday expirations that are available now. Those are coming. As of January 1st, backtrader data is now going to be stored on a 15-minute interval instead of the 30 minutes that it currently is. I'm pretty excited about that. And then you can also come back here and you can see, so this was a big release that Len did, this whole trade ID group that I was just kind of mentioning. But then you can also see what's been done in previous versions. And what's cool about that is you can kind of, go back in history and see, other things that OptionVue has done and has put in. You can, really go back version by version if you wanted to. Okay. So that was just something I wanted to share, and that's where you would go to. At OptionVue.com, it's under the support tab. There's where you would go to release notes. We're actually on 8.11 right now. But this is also a good resource for to check out the latest videos and tutorials and things like that we've done. Backtrader Data Archive, I'm not sure if I've really touched on this before, but this is something that is really important for people that want to backtest. You can actually, and anybody that's used OptionVue Backtrader knows that if you skip from one time to another, it actually has to go to our server and then load in the data into your options chain or matrix, and it can take a little bit of time to do that. Anywhere from a couple seconds to a few seconds, maybe 5 seconds to do that, depending on how big your options chain is defined. But by going here, you can actually download a lot of data that we've already collected for you. So if you wanted to backtest something on IWM, you can go in here and grab all of the data from, maybe the last 4 years if you wanted to. That way, when you do your backtest and you step through time, it's not going to our servers, our Backtrader server to grab that data. It's going locally on your computer to grab that data, and it's super fast. This is huge if you're going to do a lot of backtesting any of these underlines, and they kind of just, have collected and stored the most popular things that people have requested that they're doing back tests on. Okay. So let's go back to OptionVue. I'm going to minimize my browser, and we are having some price changes starting January 1st. And one of the things that is actually going down is the OptionVue earnings module. What the earnings module does is it runs an algorithm on the Monday of every week, and it prompts you if you have the earnings module. It says you want to run this earnings module, and what it does is it goes out, it looks over the last 2 years, and it pulls in candidates based on things that move a lot, don't move, things that run in one direction or another a lot after the earnings announcement. It talks about there's also another category of where if one underline moves, you would put on a trade on something else because it usually moves in the same direction. And then you have things that come out with earnings announcements, and if it has a good earnings announcement, you could put a trade on a different underline that it will generally have the same move that other underline did. So there's 5 different categories of earnings trades that the earnings module gives you, and it gives you about 60 to 70 trades per earnings season, depending on how you have your filters set up for that. Okay. What you can do every week is you would then pull up your earnings planner, and I know we're kind of at the end. Earnings season is basically over. It doesn't start for another few weeks here, but there's still some things that have earnings. And as you can see, I just pull up my earnings calendar here, and it tells me what trades are coming up when earnings season is at its peak. This calendar is just jam-packed with things to do potentially. So right here, this is saying FDX, FedEx, is a prime mover. Okay. What this is suggesting that we do is that you would put a straddle on FDX expiring this week at the money. You would do it in the afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, because it's going to come out with earnings after the close or before the market opens. And it's going to move. And this quality rating means that on average, if you put up a straddle on FDX over the last 2 years, you're going to make 32% on this trade. Okay, so that's what the quality rating means. Okay, here's let's look at this one. This is a runner. NAB is a runner. So what happens tomorrow morning is wherever this opens at, on average over the last 2 years, it will run 4.4% in that same direction. So this is purely directional, where you're going to get in calls or puts wherever it gaps to the next day. Okay, so this is a runner. This is a prime mover. This is actually a non-mover. Okay, and what that means is that you would put a calendar on it, which means that it's going to stay within a certain range. It's not going to doesn't have a tendency to really gap or move too much. And if you put a calendar on average over the last 2 years, this thing has made you 23%. Okay, so you can see that it says you put this on in the morning, and you would close it that afternoon. You can see you would put this straddle on tomorrow afternoon, and you would close it on Wednesday afternoon. Okay, and then you can see you would open this on Wednesday afternoon and close. So this is kind of our earnings module, and that it gives you trade ideas and tells you exactly when you would put them on and take them off. And it's all based on the past 2 years' historical performance of these trades. Okay, so this used to be this earnings module package that we offer. You can read more about it under the trading tab at OptionVue.com, but it used to be $2,000 a year. It's going down to $1,200 a year starting in January. So it's a huge price drop in that. Okay, so I've talked a little bit here for a while about some of the settings, some of where you can find new information about OptionVue. Touched on the earnings module, price drop. Just kind of jumping over to the chat here to see if there's any other questions. Let me see. Here's a new feature that's coming in that will help you manage. Oh, okay, sure. So if you're using OptionVue's data, which is called QuoteView, there's a hard symbol limit, and what it is, it's 1,000 symbols that you can be looking at one time, and that includes anything you have on your quotes display here. And then when you open up an options chain, every option is a symbol as well. So if you open anything that's even moderately defined with weeklies included, you're going to bump into that symbol limit. And again, that's using our data. With using backtrade or historical data, there's no symbol limit, but with that there is. And I have not seen that, Robert, as far as how that is going to be designed, but I know it's coming. I know it's something that we've talked about. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere under settings and then default auto strike. I'm guessing he's going to kind of revamp this a little bit so that you can further customize, a way to get that symbol count down easier. Like I said, again, sorry, I don't have any more information on that, but this is what I'm assuming it's going to be. It's going to be somewhere in here where you're going to be able to do that. Now, if you're using Thinkorswim data or Inactive Brokers data or eSignal data, symbol limits don't apply really. When you see the symbol limit, if I went over here and right-clicked on my data source and just say I switch to TOS via DD, I don't have TOS hooked up right now, but my symbol limit is 125. That is not the same thing as the QuoteView 1,000 hard symbol limit that we have. This number has to do with how fast OptionVue is going to grab data from Thinkorswim's platform. Okay, you can still have a limited number of symbols defined. It's just this has to do with the speed at which OptionVue is grabbing that data, and tech guys and other users have found that 125 is kind of the sweet spot in order to get the data in quickly and not have anything kind of bogged down there. So if you open up an SPX chain and you had TOS data coming in, it's going to take a couple minutes to populate the whole entire chain for the first time, but after that, it's only going out and grabbing information if you have that matrix open on prices that are changing. Okay, so I hope that clears up what the difference is between QuoteVue's symbol limit and then any other, we call them broker quotes coming in from the broker. This symbol limit does not have anything to do with a hard symbol limit. Any other questions anybody has?
I know you talked a little bit about the price increase. That's January 1st, I think.
Yeah, correct. So January 1st. So right now, we're going to put another email out at the end of the year here. But what it is if you're doing if you're not using Backtrader, and one of the reasons they're doing this is that, if you don't use Backtrader, you can get OptionVue for $99 a month. You're going to be able to use Thinkorswim quotes or Interactive Brokers quotes. If you do want to continue using Backtrader, the price is going to go up from $99 a month to, let's just say $100 a month, to $130 a month. Okay, so if you just need OptionVue and you're using Thinkorswim for data, and you want to do the $99 a month, that's fine. You can keep doing that. But now, really, there's an extra cost to use Backtrader now with OptionVue. So that's the big increase there. QuoteView is another increase. So if you're going to be using our data, our QuoteView data, right now it's $200 a month. It's going to go up to $250 a month next year. So, and the thing is, as far as why are prices going up and things like that? Well, about 2 years ago, we actually switched over to the lease model. The ability before 2 years ago, you could only buy OptionVue on an annual basis. There was no monthly. So we went to this monthly structure of pricing and things like that. And, after 2 years of doing that, they've realized that if we're going to offer this monthly pricing, we're going to have to increase that monthly pricing, that monthly billing, in order to keep going. So basically, after 2 years of analysis and where their projections were, we just weren't there with the pricing they had. So that's the reason behind it. I think what they really did is they really thought there were going to be a lot more monthly subscribers than we've had. So that was why they made that decision to do that.
I don't see any other questions.
Yeah. Anything else you want me that you think would be helpful that I could touch on, or?
Do you have recommended usage guidelines with the trade ID and the R column, or? I know because it's pretty new. People have been using the R column for ages.
Yeah, and honestly, I haven't really taken it for a full crash course yet myself. Other than the release notes that Len put out there, which he's got a lot of information, a lot of details about it there. I really don't have any guidelines or anything like that. What I am going to recommend be done, though, real soon is I might have Ken do it, or maybe Jim could do something, or maybe I even will. Even if it's just a 5 or 10 minute little demo video that we can put up on our site, is someone walking through setting up some complex positions and even using the R column as well. So look for that over the next week. I'll make that kind of a priority that we get that done so that I can get that out there and email you the link so that maybe you could mention it or post it up there on your forum.
Yeah, or maybe like naming conventions for the trade ID. As a programmer, I like to use dates like year, month, day, so it sorts nicely. But I noticed on your trade IDs it was more like the name like a July butterfly or something, but is the idea with the trade ID and the T-logs to have like one T-log per year, or does it have like one that covers, say, 5 years? You know what kind of the goal is?
No, I don't. I think Jim just did this kind of arbitrarily. I don't think he sent this to me so that I could just demo it because I didn't have anything set up myself for to demo this yet. So I don't see why you couldn't do it the way that you're wanting to do it. I think you could absolutely do it that way. But like I said, I'm going to make sure that we get a little demo video done.
Well, because if you don't put the data in, then if you say like December week 4 butterfly, and you're keeping a T-log for multiple years, then which year are you talking about?
Right, exactly, and I think that's why he just did that. So yeah, you would definitely want to put a year in there, or come up with your own way that you'd want to categorize them. Going forward, so you can have years and years of a T-log if you wanted to.
Right. And I assume that that's not going to slow down OptionVue much if a T-log gets really big.
No, not at all. No, not at all. It really would not have any effect on it whatsoever. I mean, the only thing that I have found that really slows down OptionVue is if you have, a gigantic matrix to find. That's it. That's the only.
Like SPX with all the strikes and expiries.
With all the strikes, you have large, and you have weeklies defined and leaps defined and everything like that. That's the only thing that I have found that slows it down, just because of the amount of data that's having to come in. With the trade log, it's all stored locally, and really it's not going to affect anything as far as the speed.
Okay. And for those who don't know, Dave in tech support told me that OptionVue is not using anything with the registry. So that's why that backup procedure I talked about earlier, where you take the OptionVue 8 folder and copy it and then rename it. Then when you do your upgrade, you have a good backup you can revert to. That's why that works, because there's no registry keys to worry about.
Yeah, I'm very, very glad that that we have the ability to do that now. For sure. I mean, I've come across people that have said, I'm still on OptionVue 7. How's OptionVue 8? I'm like, it's fine. Go ahead and download it, check it out, get used to it. Once you get comfortable with it and see that it's running good and modeling well, go ahead and transfer your record folder, all the records over if you want to start using OptionVue 8. Yeah, that it doesn't overwrite, previous versions that you have. One of the other things, I know we ran into a lot of problems with this whole thing before when Len started messing around with trying to put a new model out there, trying to improve the option modeling. That won't ever happen again. Because of the ability now to revert back to old versions if you wanted to. But the other thing he's going to do is he is talking about putting a new model out that's going to work for futures better. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's going to be a new model. And when I say new model, you will be able to go to, let me just go to SPX here. When I say new model, you'll be able to come down here and there'll be, besides uniform, manual skill, and EIOIO, you'll be able to have whatever the new model he's coming out with is going to be. So it's not like he's going to overwrite any of the modeling he's got going on right now. It would be a new model going forward.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, anything else before we wrap it up, James? I think you've covered a lot of ground.
Okay. No, I think that's covered some decent stuff and where to find some good information. I mean, the way that the new OptionVue 8 has the help tab defined here is really good in that, you can go right to our help center, whether release notes, check for videos. It's a nicer than OptionVue 7 in that it really is able to guide you to whatever support you need.
And one little trick most people may or may not know about, if you click on that upper icon in the very upper left, you can actually hide that whole toolbar. Yeah, there it is. If you right-click on that.
Yeah, that is kind of a secret tip there, yeah. So I'm right-clicking up here, and if you ever lose a window, like, where'd my status window go, you can right-click up here and
or the quotes display.
Quotes display is a big one too, right? But then you could always hide this, so now you're not seeing all those tabs at the top there. Okay.
This gives you a bit more screen real estate, especially for things like SPX with a lot of strikes.
Yep, exactly. The other little secret button here too is now this one here. So if you click on this now and you want to do a symbol lookup or insert a column or a row, you can come in here as well. A lot of people too, maybe you have a little watch list that you're looking at that you have on Excel. You can actually copy those symbols. It don't have to be in Excel, but copy a list of symbols, and then you could paste in those symbols wherever you're highlighted in the matrix. So this
it's also useful if you're running a Mac and a virtual Windows.
Yes, you don't have
your Mac keyboard isn't quite the same as a Windows keyboard. So.
Right, you don't have the insert button. I know that one was a big one whenever I talked to a Mac user. So without the insert button, you could just come up here and now insert a row if you wanted to.
Yep. So lots of good changes in the last year or so.
Yep, and if you have more suggestions, keep them coming because that's how they get into OptionVue.
Right.
Yep.
Well, James, I probably won't talk to you until next year, so have a great holiday season, and as the Germans say, a good slide into the new year. Gute Rutsch.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, and you do the same. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, thanks, everyone. We'll have a good holidays, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.